Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that affects millions but maybe doesn't get the headline space it deserves: dengue. And just to give you an idea of the scale, the WHO estimates, get this, maybe 100 to 400 million infections globally every single year.
It's a staggering number.
Right. And nearly 100 million of those actually show symptoms. It's huge. So our mission today is to really unpack this. What is dengue? Why is it spreading so fast? And what does it mean for, well, for all of us? It's this complex mix of biology, environment, human factors.
And it's incredibly timely. Dengue is, unfortunately, the most rapidly spreading mosquito-borne virus we know of. The impact, especially the morbidity and mortality in regions like South Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, it makes understanding it really urgent right now.
Let's get into it then. We're talking dengue fever, this acute viral thing, and then there's the severe form, dengue hemorrhagic fever, DHF. That's the one that can cause plasma leakage, bleeding, even shock. Scary stuff.
Dengue Shock Syndrome, yeah.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
But to really get a handle on the impact, we need those numbers you mentioned.
Yeah, and the numbers really tell the story of its acceleration. Think about this. Back in 2000, the WHO reported around 500,000 cases, 505,000 roughly.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2024, 14.6 million reported cases.
Wow.
And it's not slowing down. Just in the first half of this year, 2025, we've already seen over 4 million cases and, sadly, 3,000 deaths from 97 countries. It just shows this escalating global burden.
That's an incredible jump. So where is this happening? Where are these cases concentrated?
Well, geographically, dengue is now considered endemic in over 100 countries. That means it's just always there.
Right.
And about 70% of the total global burden, that falls on the Americas, Southeast Asia, and the Western Pacific. So quite concentrated in certain regions.
And places like India.
For countries like India, it's both endemic and epidemic. So it's always present, particularly in urban centers, but then you get these big flare-ups, these annual epidemics, often kicking off after the monsoon season.
The rains.
Exactly. Official numbers in India might say around 200,000 cases a year, but the reality, most estimates suggest it's probably 10, maybe even 20 times higher than that. There's likely significant underreporting.
So you mentioned endemic and epidemic. Can you just quickly clarify the difference in this context?
Yeah, good question. Endemic basically means the disease is consistently present in a particular area or population. Think of dengue just being a background reality in cities like Bangkok or Delhi.
Okay.
Epidemics are different. That's when you get a sudden, widespread outbreak, often infecting far more people than usual. This can happen when, say, a new serotype of the virus gets introduced.
We'll get to serotypes later, I bet.
Exactly. Or even shifts within existing virus types. That can trigger a big outbreak, too.
And seasonality is a big driver for these epidemics.
Huge. Cases almost always peak during and after the monsoon. More rain, more humidity, perfect mosquito breeding conditions.
Like setting up little mosquito nurseries everywhere.
Pretty much. And what's worrying is climate change. It seems to be lengthening that transmission season, allowing the mosquitoes and the virus to thrive for longer periods and even move into new areas.
So beyond the case numbers, what's the human toll? How many people are actually at risk?
It's vast. The WHO estimated back in 2022 that around 3.9 billion people live in areas where they're at risk of dengue. That's almost half the planet.
Half the world's population, wow.
And annually, the estimate is around 40,000 deaths globally. Now, the case fatality rate for the severe forms, DHF and DSS, it varies. In India, with treatment, it's maybe 1 to 5%.
Okay, still significant.
But without treatment, that rate can tragically shoot up to 20%. It really hammers home how vital quick diagnosis and proper medical care are.
Are some groups more vulnerable than others? Kids? Adults?
It varies a bit geographically, actually. In Southeast Asia, children seem to bear a higher risk of developing the severe form, DHF. But in South Asia and Latin America, we tend to see more severe cases in adults. Gender doesn't seem to be a major factor. It affects men and women pretty equally.
But what about socioeconomic factors?
Yes. There's definitely a higher incidence seen in urban, poor populations. And that's often down to a combination of things. Dense housing, maybe poor sanitation, inadequate water storage, all things that can create more breeding sites for mosquitoes. It's that complex mix again.
Right. Biology meets social conditions. Okay, let's dive a bit deeper into the science, the virus itself. What makes dengue dengue?
So the culprit is the dengue virus, DENV. It belongs to the flavivirus genus that's the same family as Zika, West Nile, yellow fever.
Okay. Familiar neighbors.
Exactly. And the key thing about dengue virus is that there are 4 distinct types, or serotypes: DNV1, DNV2, DNV3, and DNV4.
4 different flavors of dengue?
You could say that. Now, if you get infected with, say, DNV1, you get lifelong immunity. But only to DNV1. You only get temporary partial protection against the other 3.
Okay, here's the part I find fascinating and kind of scary. I've heard getting it a second time with a different type can be much worse. How does that work? It seems backwards.
It really does seem counterintuitive, doesn't it? But yes, a subsequent infection with a different serotype significantly boosts your risk of severe disease, like DHF or DSS.
Why?
It's a phenomenon called Antibody-Dependent Enhancement, or ADE. Basically, the antibodies you made from that first infection, instead of neutralizing the new, different serotype, they can actually sort of help it. They bind to the new virus, but not strongly enough to neutralize it. And this complex can then bind more easily to certain immune cells, like monocytes and macrophages.
So the antibodies act like a Trojan horse?
In a way, yes. They help the virus get inside the very cells that are supposed to fight it. This leads to much higher levels of virus replication and a massive inflammatory response, sometimes called a cytokine storm.
Wow, so your own immune memory can backfire. That's wild.
It is. And it's a major headache for vaccine development, as you can imagine. You need a vaccine that protects against all 4 types equally well without accidentally priming someone for ADE if they encounter a different type later.
Right, a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift from the virus to its partner in crime, the mosquito, the infamous carrier.
Right. The main player here is Aedes aegypti. It's a smallish, dark mosquito. You might recognize it by the sort of lyre-shaped white markings on its back, its thorax, and distinctive white bands on its legs.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out, though. Hopefully not too close.
Hopefully not. It's primarily a day biter, most active early morning and late afternoon.
Yeah.
And crucially, it really prefers humans. It's highly anthropophilic, loves human blood.
Right.
And it breeds in artificial containers, right where people live. Overhead water tanks, discarded tires, flower pots, saucers, gutters. Basically, any small collection of relatively clean water in your homes.
Yeah.
It's very well adapted to urban life.
A very domestic sort of pest. Is there another one involved?
Yes. There's a secondary vector, Aedes albopictus. You might know it as the Asian tiger mosquito. It has a white stripe down its back.
Ah, yeah.
It's less focused on humans than aegypti, bites other animals too. And you find it more in rural or semi-urban spots. But it's more adaptable to cooler temperatures.
So it's spreading.
Its range is definitely expanding, yeah, which means it could bring dengue to new areas.
And where do they like to lay eggs? You mentioned containers.
Primarily stagnant, clean water, often in and around where people live. And a really important point, their eggs can survive drying out. They're resistant to desiccation.
Seriously?
Yeah, they can last for months in dry conditions just waiting for the next rain to fill up that container. Then boom, they hatch. Makes controlling breeding sites a real continuous effort.
Okay, so how does the virus actually move? From an infected person to a mosquito to the next person? Walk us through that cycle.
Right, it's quite specific. So a person has dengue virus circulating in their blood, they're viremic. This happens whether they have symptoms, are about to get symptoms, or even if they never show symptoms at all.
So asymptomatic people can still spread it via mosquitoes.
Absolutely. And you can transmit the virus to a mosquito up to 2 days before you even feel sick, and for about 2 days after your fever breaks. The main viremic period is usually about 4 to 5 days, but sometimes up to 12.
Okay, so the mosquito bites an infected person. Then what?
Then the virus has to multiply inside the mosquito. It infects the mosquito's gut cells, replicates, and then spreads to its salivary glands.
How long does that take?
That's the extrinsic incubation period, or EIP. It typically takes about 8 to 12 days. But the temperature makes a big difference. Warmer temps can speed it up. Other things matter too, like the virus strain and how much virus the mosquito picked up initially.
And once a mosquito is infectious?
It stays infectious for the rest of its life. Every time it bites someone after that EIP, it can potentially transmit the virus.
And mosquitoes are pretty much the only way. Or are there other routes?
Mosquitoes are overwhelmingly the main route, but there is evidence for other ways. Maternal transmission from mother to baby during pregnancy can happen. It seems relatively rare and depends on when the mother gets infected.
What are the risks for the baby?
Preterm birth, low birth weight, fetal distress. Also, very rarely, dengue has been transmitted through blood transfusions, organ donation.
Okay, very uncommon though.
Very uncommon. And interestingly, there's something called transovarial transmission, the virus passing from a female mosquito directly to her eggs. So some mosquitoes could potentially hatch already carrying the virus.
Fascinating. Okay, so we have the virus, the mosquito. But why do some people get really sick while others just get a mild fever or nothing at all? What makes someone vulnerable?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Several host factors are involved. Age, like we mentioned, kids in Southeast Asia, adults elsewhere tending towards more severe forms.
Mm.
That previous infection history is huge. The ADE risk with a second different serotype. There's also likely a genetic component. Certain immune system markers, HLA types, seem linked to susceptibility.
So your genes can play a role.
Seems so. And even things like nutritional status might influence how your immune system responds.
And the environment must be a massive factor given the mosquito connection.
Oh, absolutely huge. Climate is key. Rainfall patterns, humidity, temperature, all directly impact mosquito breeding and survival, and even how quickly the virus develops inside them.
And how we build our cities.
Definitely. Urbanization, especially when it's unplanned, with slums, poor drainage, it creates perfect mosquito real estate. And just simple things like how people store water uncovered tanks or basically open invitations for mosquitoes to lay eggs.
So it really is a social issue too, not just medical.
Precisely. Factors like poor housing, overcrowding, they increase exposure, low community awareness about how to prevent breeding sites, or maybe lack of participation in control efforts. That hinders prevention. And yeah, lower socioeconomic status often correlates with higher dengue rates because many of these risk factors tend to cluster together.
What about our own behavior? Does that change our risk?
Yes, absolutely. Simple things, not wearing protective clothing, not using repellents consistently, especially during those peak biting times.
Early morning, late afternoon.
Exactly. Also, how we manage waste. Improper disposal can create countless little water holding containers. And again, community involvement or lack thereof in cleaning up potential breeding sites makes a huge difference. It really takes collective action.
Okay, so let's say someone does get infected. What's the typical journey like? What happens clinically?
Well, like we said, it's a really broad spectrum. Many people might have no symptoms at all. Some get a mild feverish illness, maybe feel wiped out for a bit. Then there's classic dengue fever.
The breakbone fever.
That's the one. Named for the incredibly severe muscle and joint pain it can cause. People describe it as agony. It sounds brutal. And then you have the severe end, DHF and DSS.
And the WHO has specific ways to categorize the severity, right? For doctors managing patients.
Correct. The 2009 WHO guidelines classify it mainly into 3 groups. There's dengue without warning signs, basically, fever, plus some other symptoms like headache, rash, muscle pain.
Okay.
Then dengue with warning signs. This is critical. Warning signs include things like intense abdominal pain, persistent vomiting, fluid accumulation, bleeding from the gums or nose, fatigue, restlessness. These signs suggest the patient might be heading towards severe dengue.
And the third category?
That's severe dengue.
Yeah.
This is defined by severe plasma leakage leading to shock, DSS, or fluid accumulation causing respiratory distress, severe bleeding, or severe organ impairment like liver failure, myocarditis, or effects on the brain.
And the illness itself has phases.
Yes, typically 3 phases. First is the febrile phase, high fever, usually lasts 2 to 7 days. That's when the virus is replicating rapidly. Okay, then comes the critical phase. This is usually short, maybe 24 to 48 hours, often as the fever starts to drop. This is when that plasma leakage can happen, potentially leading to shock. It's the most dangerous period.
Right, when you really need to watch closely.
Absolutely. Then, if things go well, the patient enters the recovery phase, where the leaked fluid gets reabsorbed and they start to feel better. Complications like DHF, DSS, or those rare organ issues usually manifest during the critical phase.
And you mentioned the case fatality rate earlier, highlighting how crucial treatment is.
Exactly. Untreated shock can kill up to 20% of patients. But with good supportive hospital care, especially careful fluid management, that fatality rate plummets to less than 1%. It's a huge difference. Timeliness is everything.
So pulling this all together, how do we actually fight back against something this complex? What are the strategies?
It has to be multi-pronged attack. First off, you need good surveillance, knowing where and when cases are happening. Programs like India's IDSP and NVBDCP are crucial for tracking.
And confirming cases.
Yes, lab confirmation is key. Using tests like the NS1 antigen test, which detects a piece of the virus early on, or IgM antibody tests, which show a recent infection, or PCR to find the virus's genetic material. Good data drives good responses.
And then tackling the mosquitoes, obviously.
Absolutely central. Vector control. That means source reduction, getting rid of breeding sites, emptying containers, covering water tanks, cleaning gutters.
Community cleanup campaigns.
Essential. Then there's biological control using things like special fish that eat larvae or tiny crustaceans called copepods. And chemical control, using insecticides like mephos in water containers or spraying pyrethroids to kill adult mosquitoes, though resistance is a growing issue.
And personal protection.
Vital. Using repellents, wearing long sleeves and pants during peak biting hours, using mosquito nets even during the day if someone is sick at home to prevent mosquitoes biting them and spreading it further.
Okay, what about treatment? If someone gets dengue, is there a specific drug?
Unfortunately, no. There's no specific antiviral medication that kills the dengue virus. Treatment is all about supportive care,
Meaning
managing the symptoms. Keeping the patient hydrated, managing fever with acetaminophen paracetamol, not aspirin or ibuprofen, as those can increase bleeding risk, and critically, recognizing those warning signs early and providing careful fluid management, often intravenously in hospital, to prevent or treat shock. It's about supporting the body while it fights the virus.
And vaccines, you mentioned the challenges. Is there anything available now?
There is a vaccine, Dengvaxia, and another called Qdenga is also rolling out in some places,
Yeah.
but it's not straightforward because of that ADE risk we talked about.
Right, the second infection problem.
Exactly. WHO guidelines are generally cautious. For Dengvaxia, it's often recommended mainly for people who've already had a confirmed dengue infection in the past and who live in high transmission areas. Using it in people who've never been infected, seronegative, could potentially increase their risk of severe disease if they later get infected naturally.
So not a simple solution yet.
Not a silver bullet, no. Research is ongoing for better, safer vaccines for everyone.
So it really comes down to prevention then as the main strategy for individuals.
Yeah.
What can you, listening right now, do?
Well, the most straightforward thing is just try not to get bitten. Especially during a day when these Aedes mosquitoes are active, they live right where we do.
So practical steps.
Wear long sleeves, long pants, especially covering your legs and ankles. Use insect screens on windows and doors. Apply insect repellent. Follow the instructions carefully. And if someone in your house does have dengue, take extra care to prevent mosquitoes biting them and then biting others.
And cleaning up.
Absolutely crucial. Regularly check around your home inside and out for any standing water. Empty, clean, or cover containers. Flower pot saucers, pet water bowls, clogged gutters, even bottle caps can collect enough water for them to breed. Be vigilant about eliminating those sites.
What if you think you might have dengue? What should you do?
First, rest. Drink lots and lots of fluids, water, juice, rehydration salts. Use acetaminophen or paracetamol for fever and pain.
And what not to do?
Definitely avoid NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That means things like ibuprofen, naproxen, and aspirin. They can make bleeding worse in dengue.
Okay, crucial point.
And most importantly, watch carefully for those warning signs we discussed. Severe belly pain, vomiting repeatedly, bleeding, feeling very weak or restless. If any of those appear, get medical attention immediately. Don't wait.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big picture takeaway for you, our listener? We've seen dengue isn't just a simple fever. It's this complex, rapidly growing global threat tied up with climate, cities, mosquitoes, even our own immune systems.
It really is a perfect example of that complex dance between a virus, its vector, us hosts, and the environment we all share. And the challenges are real and growing. Climate change pushing mosquitoes into new areas, rapid urbanization creating more habitats, mosquitoes becoming resistant to insecticides, and the vaccine situation still being tricky.
But it's not hopeless. We've heard about clear strategies: better surveillance, serious vector control, smart clinical care.
Exactly. And community involvement is key to making vector control work. It needs global cooperation on research and resources, but also local action, community by community.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this.
As our world keeps changing, warming up, becoming more urban, how do we get ahead of threats like dengue? How can we combine local, on-the-ground efforts with global science and collaboration? It really shows that protecting ourselves relies on both individual actions like clearing standing water and collective effort, working together as communities and nations. That combination is probably our best defense.